Whoever invented the solar cell was a genius. The sun shines on it and it generates electricity. How does that work exactly? Solar energy is the most common and readily available source of green energy. It just so happens that when we use solar energy, substances to be used, it's the sand that our planet doesn't need, but the sand must be refined into high-purity polysilicon. Only then can they be used for solar panels. But it's not difficult with modern technology. Refined polysilicon is melted and cast into silicon rods, and then cut into wafers. This is the core material for photovoltaic cells. We've talked before about the microscopic atomic structure of pure silicon. The silicon atom has 4 electrons in its outermost layer. It shares electrons with the surrounding silicon atoms. A structure with bivalence electrons around each atom is formed. This structure is very stable and tight, and the electrons don't move freely, making it the equivalent of an insulator in its pure state. But we can dope it with other elements to form a conductive semiconductor material. Let's say we doped an element that carries 5 valence electrons. Then the atom will have 9 electrons around it. The extra electron is not stable enough. When it's energized, it can move freely, but if we use it directly as a solar panel, can't produce an electric current, because even if the electrons can move, it's still random. But if you want the electrons to flow one way to create an electric current, then there must be a driving force. And the simple and practical way to create a driving force is to use a p-n junction. So what is a p-n junction? In fact, it's very simple. We take the semiconductor just doped with the element carrying 5 valence electrons, called n-type semiconductors. Similar to n-type semiconductors, if an element with 3 valence electrons into pure silicon, that atom has 7 electrons around it. It has 1 more hole and 1 less electron than the most stable octet of electrons. It has 1 less electron and 1 more hole. This is called a p-type semiconductor. At this point, if we combine 2 semiconductors, we form what's called a p-n structure, and when they come in contact, the electrons and holes on the contact surfaces will migrate, trying to reach an equilibrium. This creates a depletion zone with no free electrons or holes. But in middle school we learned that the number of protons and neutrons in an atom should equal the number of electrons. The combination of electrons and holes in the depletion zone inevitably results in an extra proton. Thus, the n-side boundary becomes slightly positively charged. In contrast, the p-side boundary becomes slightly negatively charged. This creates an electric field. This electric field is the driving force. Pay attention. When light penetrates the depletion zone, the photon energy is enough to create electron-hole pairs in the depletion zone, and the electric field in the depletion zone will drive the electrons and holes out of the depletion zone. And that's it. The concentration of electrons in the N region and holes in the P region becomes larger and larger. This creates a potential difference, which is the voltage. Once we connect a load between the two, a current is generated. After the electrons pass through the circuit and recombine with the holes in the P region, the solar cell will then be continuously powered. In practical application, solar panels consist of a multi-layer structure. Of course, in addition to the protective top and bottom structures, the centerpiece is the panel structure. It consists of several unit cells. A single solar cell can only produce about 0.5 volts. By combining multiple cells in series and parallel, can increase the voltage and current output. But it's important to note, the current generated by solar cells is direct current, can only be used to directly drive a DC appliance. If you need alternating current, it has to be converted by an inverter, or domestic or industrial use. Okay, after reading this, do you understand?